Are you a service-based business owner looking to increase profits to fund your lifestyle? Well, this podcast is for you. We bring you inspirational guests sharing actionable tips to solve many of the struggles you face each and every day. And now, over to your host, Paul Higgins.
Hello to the Build, Live, Give podcast. If you're a first-time listener, welcome. And if you enjoy it, please subscribe. If you're a regular, thanks for your support. Love to get your feedback at paul@buildlivegive.com. It means the world to me when you do. You're welcome to take notes, but all the interviews are fully transcribed, and that will be in the show notes. Our guest today is someone who started picking cotton in Oklahoma aged 6. They did this to 14 and then joined the local factory assembly line and guessed that would be it. That would be their life. Then they had an offer to attend an event, which they didn't want to attend, but it was free beer, or they were going to get free beer. So that turned them into a millionaire by 23, that one decision, that one night. They've been rated in the top 20 speakers in the world, the top 20 success coaches. They've written 13 best-selling books with 2 to come. And their peers will be some people you might know extremely well. They now help people to crack the rich code. So why listen? How to solve your relationship with money, the number one lesson they learned, which you can easily apply, and how you can attach yourself to an authority-building rocket ship for less than 3,000 words. You got to listen to find out what that means. So now over to the great Jim Britt from jimbritt.com. Welcome, Jim Britt, to the Build, Live, Give podcast. An absolute pleasure having you on today, Jim.
Well, it's great to be here, Paul. Thank you very much.
Yeah, look, I've been doing a lot of research, and you've certainly been an incredibly busy and giving person over your career, and I know we're going to go into that in a lot more detail, but why don't we just kick off with something your family or friends would know about you that we may not?
Well, it's that I'm a pretty simple person, pretty low key, and live a fairly simple life. I mean, I've got a nice home and nice cars, but I don't live a lavish lifestyle, and some people think I do. So maybe that's one thing.
Yeah, and I believe you live in the mountains out of LA. Is that right?
Yeah, I live out of Northern California. I live about an hour, about halfway between Sacramento and Lake Tahoe, up in the foothills. So I'm in the trees on 10 acres, and about two towns about 10 miles and in between 2 towns, and both of those are only about 10,000 people. So I try to keep it simple. I do a lot of traveling, or did do a lot of traveling until recently, but. It's always great to come home and just, watch the deer and the fox and the different things running around the property.
Yeah, excellent. Well, look, I come from a farming background, so it's like my soul place when I go back to my parents' farm, or they've sold it, but when we go back to around that area, it's I love that as well. I love escaping, and in Australia, there's a lot of lands you can escape to. So,
oh yeah, for sure.
It's quite easy still to get lost. And I know, as I said before in the start, you've had an absolute incredible career. But why don't you just sort of take us through your key milestones of the amazing career to date?
Well, there's been probably a lot of milestones, turning points, and sometimes you don't realize it when it happens, but you look back on it and realize how much of a turning point it was. I'm a high school dropout. I grew up in the Midwest, and I'd say a very poor family. We weren't poverty stricken, but we were pretty poor, and I know that back then we had food stamps. We didn't call them food stamps; it was something else. But I know that our family had them,
yes.
And but we had a loving family, and my first job was picking cotton. And if you've ever picked cotton, it's not an easy job, and we got paid 2 cents a pound for it, and it doesn't weigh much, so you work pretty hard. So I started at 6 years old picking cotton. Did that till I was about 14. Shortly after that, dropped out of high school in the 10th grade and landed my next job pumping gas. and stayed there for about 2 years. And my dream job was the factory just down the road, working on the assembly line, because it was indoors, and I thought that would be ideal for me to work there. Big problem is I had to have a high school diploma to work there, and I didn't have one. So I took the equivalency and flunked that twice, and finally met somebody that was a supervisor, got me into the factory. So I thought I'd be there the rest of my life, until late one night. I was working the swing shift. I got up at 12:30 a.m., kind of looking forward to it, because the next night was my night off. And a fellow walks up to me and he said, "Hey, Britt," he said, "are you going to work in this factory the rest of your life?" And I said, "Man, I don't know, maybe." And he said, "Why don't you come go tomorrow night with me to this meeting? I think it's something we could do to make some extra money." And I said, "Well, what is it?" And he said, "I don't know. They just told me to bring somebody with me." I said, "Well, I'm not your guy." I said, "I'm not going on my night off. I don't even know what it is, and not realizing this was going to be a major turning point for me. And he said the magic word, though. He said, "If you'll go with me," he said, "I'll buy the beer afterwards." And I said, "What time's the meeting?" So I went for the beer, not for the meeting, and spent about an hour there, and a business opportunity unfolded in front of me that was going to cost me $4,000. Big problem is I only had $9. I was 22 years old, no money. And so I went to 23 banks and loan companies to borrow the money, and finally found one that loaned it to me. Went to work. My first year, I didn't do so well. In fact, I lost everything I owned. Wow. Both of my vehicles had been repoed. My home had been was in foreclosure. Had already been foreclosed. I had a notice on the door from the sheriff saying you got to be out in 5 days. I had no furniture. It was all had been repoed, and I had a wife and a child and 15 cents in my pocket, and didn't know what I was going to do next. But I knew I wasn't going to quit. And the next turning point was somebody knocked on my door from the company that I was involved with. And he said, "I understand you're a hard worker, but you're not making any money." And I said, "Yeah, you got it right." And he came in, sat down with me, spent 2 hours, and taught me some things about what I was doing wrong and what I needed to be doing. And my business took off like a rocket. And the next year, I earned myself just a few dollars under $1 million. So at 23 years old. So I was a millionaire at 23 and destitute at 22. So it taught me how fast things can turn around, but also taught me the value of just one good idea presented at the right time can be amazing. I mean, I look back at the guy, he was really a savior. And I've never seen him since. Never talked to him since then. Never saw him after that. So. And
what was the business then? What were you into?
It was a direct selling company. We were marketing cleaning products, soap and cleaning products, and similar to a company like Amway. Yes. Different than that, but kind of similar. Great product line, but I didn't know anything about selling. He said, in fact, that night they said your job is talking to people. He said if you talk a little, you'll learn a little. If you talk a lot, you'll learn a lot. And I said, "Well, how much is a little?" And he said, "1 a day." I said, "Well, how much is a lot?" And he said, 10 a day. I said, "I'll do the 10. So for that first year, I talked to a minimum of 10 people every day for 12 months. And I got 3,650 plus people that told me no. So when people ask me today how you handle rejection, and I said, I did that when I was 22. I don't need to go back there again. I mean, who's got that many no's in a row? I probably have a Guinness Book of World Records there, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, as they say, sometimes if you're at rock bottom, there's only one place to go. And it looks like that was definitely the case in your situation. And you've had amazing peer group over the years. The late great Jim Rohn. I know that you've mentored Tony Robbins at a very early age. But how did you get to meet those guys?
Well, in fact, that direct sales company that I was involved with, Jim Rohn, was doing training for them. And that's where I met Jim. and we became close friends, and we're close friends up until he passed away. But we were also business partners for about 8 years, and I was kind of responsible for promoting him initially, and throughout the 8 years, I still promoted him, but I started speaking as well. But I think what we did there really made Jim Rohn famous. So we probably looked at each other a little bit as coaches or mentors, and in some ways, because he helped me to get started. I helped him to get himself out there past just what he did in that direct sales company. So, and Tony Robbins came to work for us, and he kind of looked up to Jim Rohn as his mentor. And I was a trainer, the guy that taught him and took him out on the street and taught him how to sell. And so I was more of his coach, I would say.
Yeah, great. And could you see, did he clearly stick out at that point compared to others?
Well, he stood out because he was 6'7".
He's so tall.
And I'm 6'4", and it's rarely do I have to look up to anybody. But yeah, he had something about him. He was so determined, and you could tell him to read a certain book, and the next day he came in and he had read the whole thing. And not only did he read it, but he was applying it. I mean, he was that type of person. So very sharp. I think it was the second month that he was with us. We had over 300 full-time salespeople, and he was number one the second month. So I knew he was going to be good at selling for sure. But I never thought he would do what he's doing. But things happen. You get breaks, and he certainly deserves everything that he's gotten.
Yeah, well, did he come from a country or a farming background as well?
No, he grew up in L.A. and kind of in the heart of the city, not downtown, but in Los Angeles, suburbs.
Because I know Jim, what was the famous quote is he's an Idaho farm boy that made it in Beverly Hills, and sounds like you were definitely from cotton picking background in the Midwest. So
I was in Oklahoma.
There you go, Oklahoma. So for you and with Jim in particular, what were the things that made you? Because like I said, I'm a country boy as well. What made you guys go from country boy to, I suppose, on some of the largest stages in the world? What was different about you guys, maybe to others?
I don't know. I mean, Jim met somebody, Earl Schoaf, that kind of guided him and inspired him to start doing what he does or what he did. And for me, I never really planned on doing what I'm doing now. I never thought I could ever write a book. I never thought I could ever get on stage and speak. It was the furthest thing from my mind. But I think a lot of what I did was being around Jim Rohn. I kind of thought that he had the corner on all good material. So I thought I could never speak without using his material, which I never have and never do. But I realized that you can learn a lot of things just from experience, which is what I share with people too. But I don't know what really triggered Jim, but I just wanted something more in my life. And when I got the hang of speaking and helping people, that's what my life's been about for the last 43 or 4 years, something like that.
Yeah, and I know you're ranked in the top 50 speakers, the top 20 success coach, and I think you've now written 13 best-selling books. So you've certainly come a long way from the 6-year-old cotton picking boy. But I just before we move on to the next section, I must admit, when I sit down and meet people, especially when I was in corporate, I'd sit down and meet people and I'd just have an instant connection with someone around the table. And it often got back to our country origins. So, I think, you were back then, you were, small towns, you had to be good to everyone and everyone was good to you. And I think that sort of carries through, and I'm glad it's definitely carried through for you. So, we go to today. So when someone asks you, Jim, what do you do? How do you best answer that?
Well, I think, a short, simple answer is I help people to remove the blocks that stop their success in any area of their life. Because what I discovered is that, we all have habit patterns that become second nature to us, both positive and negative. The positive ones are like driving a vehicle or walking or talking and different things that we do that we don't think about. We don't get in the car and say, how do you drive this thing? We've already learned that and we just get in and go. But on the other side of it, we have negative habit patterns that become second nature and we don't know we're doing them. So what I discovered about 35 years ago is those patterns become like an addiction because they're based on core beliefs and based on programming that we have. And the more you try to break out of it and fail, the stronger that pattern becomes. So what I did over a period of about a year, back 35 or so years ago, was developed a process of helping people to discover what that addictive, I call it an addictive cycle. It's an addiction. I developed a process of helping them discover that and also helping them to break it. And of course, the discovery is half the battle, because it's more than half the battle, because once somebody discovers that they're engaging in a negative pattern like that, and they consciously know it, now it becomes a conscious choice to engage in it. Before it wasn't. It was like an unconscious thing that they did. So they were kind of trapped in a self-imposed, self-created prison that they didn't know they were in, but yet they were trying to get out of something they didn't know they were in. So what I do is help people break out of that in any area of their life. It doesn't matter which area it is. And I focus a lot on entrepreneurs, but I also general public as well.
Yeah, and I know, at the moment, and we'll talk later about it, you've got Cracking the Code, which, helps people sort of break, or from my interpretation, break through the money. You'll do a much better interpretation than I will. But, I know money can be a real issue in stopping entrepreneurs. It's nearly like we repel. And it depends on our backgrounds. But for me, humble background, money to me is something that wasn't common in our family. How do you, or what do you know about that a lot of people don't in the world?
Well, money's not common in most people's family. You have some people that are very wealthy. And I've seen children come out of wealthy families that don't want money because they saw what that money did for a parent or something, which doesn't mean money's bad. It not at all. I think everybody deserves to have as much as they want and need to live the lifestyle that they want to live. But a lot of people grow up with money problems. And the reality is we spend about 80% of our waking hours as adults focused on making money, whether it's commuting back and forth to a job and working, 8 or 10 hours a day, or being an entrepreneur, or working from home, or owning a business. We're spending a lot of hours every day, probably 80% of our time. So that's why I created this program called Cracking the Rich Code, because I want to help people to reprogram their subconscious regarding money and how to develop a better relationship with money, because that's the key. A lot of people don't have a relationship with money. They're afraid of it, or they're afraid of not having it, afraid they can't get it, afraid they can't pay their bills, or afraid if they get too much, it's going to be too much responsibility. All kinds of things go through people's minds. But what I do is help them kind of unravel that.
Yeah, and what are some of the key principles in you doing that? Like, I know there's people listening right now that they'd be nodding their head going, that's me, and I'm nodding my head, Jim. I'm going, yep, that's me. I've got not a healthy relationship with money. What are some of the key things you can help us with today?
Well, to change anything, I'll give you some quick answers. It could take a lot longer, but I'll give you some quick answers. If first thing you've got to do is you got to desire change. And I think everybody probably desires that. They desire more money. Even you walk out on Wall Street someplace and or a busy city in New York or Chicago or wherever, and ask 1,000 people if they want to make more money, and everyone would say yes. But the desire's there, but you have to go to the next point. And the next point is, if you want to be wealthy, whatever that means to the person, it might be $10 million, it might be $5,000 a month in residual income. But whatever it is, if you want to be wealthy, you have to make a decision that doesn't allow for anything less than that. And that's the problem, is people, they make the decision, but as soon as they make the decision, their mental Google pops up and gives them all the reasons why they can't. And it throws them off course. But it's just like, you can't make a decision to be a healthy person and make a decision to eat fast food every day. That's two different decisions. So you can't make a decision to be wealthy and a decision to fail at the same time. It's two different decisions. So you got to make that decision before you know what it is that you're going to do to make that wealth. And most people will look for the opportunity before they make the decision. You need to make the decision, then the opportunity shows up. Reasons come first, then the answers. So that the decision is the foundation for creation. People set goals, they do their vision boards, they have affirmations, they do all that stuff. And I've done that in the past, and none of it works for me. But what works is if you make a strong decision, that's the foundation that then your goals ride upon that decision to help you get where you are or where you want to go. So it's the incremental steps to getting to the decision. So I think they're setting the goals first instead of the decision first. And to me, that's just mental gymnastics that doesn't take you anywhere. So you got to make the decision. Then you got to be bold. In today's world, you've got to be mentally tough and bold. You got to put yourself out there, take center stage, get in the spotlight. Nobody's going to take the spotlight looking for you. You got to put yourself in it. So you got to be bold. You got to do things that other people are not willing to do if you want to get ahead in life. And then the next thing, which is really, really important, is you got to be willing to endure some pain, the pain of changing. And that's what we're always weighing out. Good example, the New Year's coming up here in a couple of months, and people are going to set New Year's resolutions for, let's say, to lose 30, 40 pounds. And right around January 15th, now they're going to join the gym, they're going to go to a dietary program, they're going to start, exercising, doing all this stuff. But around January 15th, they quit going to the gym. And they're sitting on a sofa eating potato chips because that's less painful than going to the gym and going on a diet or changing their eating habits even. So you got to endure some pain because every life level and every income level requires a different you. You've got to become somebody different to have something different. And if you really look back at your life, you can see, if you connect the dots backwards, how you've progressed. I mean, today, I'm a different person than I was 30 years ago or 20 years ago or even 10 years ago because you do different things. You stretch yourself and you step out of that comfort zone and are willing to endure some pain. So if it's not painful, you're probably not growing much. So that's a key element. But when you're doing that, the most important aspect, I was asked in front of a panel years ago, what's the number one thing that you've learned that's been the most valuable to you above and beyond everything else? And my instant response was the ability to let go. The ability to let go. I mean, people fail. We fail at things. We're not failures, but we fail at things. When things don't work the way we plan always. There's always problems that pop up. There's always people that you want to change, but you can't. There's always circumstances. So my philosophy is don't try to control the things that's beyond your control. That's what creates stress and conflict. All conflict is self-conflict based upon trying to control things that's beyond your control or people that's beyond your control. The only person you can control is you. So if something happens that's less than uplifting and positive and loving, and you can't change it, let it go and move on. If you lose $1 million, there's no need to stay there. There's no need to continue wrestling with the fact that you've lost $1 million. It's gone. Let's move on. Let's create the next one. So it's that ability to let go and live more in the moment, And people say, well, it's hard to let go. And I say, well, it's not. It's observing yourself doing what you do. It's observing your habit patterns. If I pick up a book and I'm holding it at my hand, that doesn't mean I have to carry that book with me for the rest of my life. I can actually lay it down. And that's the same way with letting go. It's just laying it down. Whether it's an emotional thing that you're experiencing, you separate yourself from it, disconnect from it, and let it go. Or you lay it down, or if it's a habit pattern, you just choose not to engage in it. So those are things that you need for any type of thing you want to accomplish.
I think there's absolute gold in that. And I think, sport is a great example of that. You look at, tennis players or really good sports people, the minute they've made a mistake, you can see, let it go, move to the next point. And I think you're right. In life,
I used to be a semi-pro bowler. Yeah. And I carried a 226 average and had 6 300 perfect games. But when you get down to you've got 10 strikes in a row and you get up there, that your mind goes to work on you. It just does. I mean, you're going, okay, I got to get this one. And you make it, and you get down to the last one. I can't tell you how many times the last ball that I rolled, I missed the strike, and it's a mental thing. You can get off mentally and have a terrible game, But yeah, you're right. Sports is like that.
Yeah, and then I suppose just quickly on my personal life with enduring pain, it was, I was given a choice where, on dialysis you live about 10 years at best, is the average, and with a transplant you might live 20 years. So, my nephrologist said to me, look, Paul, the game's pretty simple here. If you can last as long as you can with your current kidney, that's going to give you better life on the other side. And I've got to say, Jim, there was days 6% kidney function where it was just, it was absolutely horrible. But I knew going through that pain would then get me to see my grandkids. So it helped me get through that. So now, no matter what happens in my life, I'm thinking, well, it can't be worse than having 6% kidney function. It's worth the pain of going through. But that was something that was, I didn't wish that upon myself, and I certainly don't wish it upon anyone else, but it did help me understand what that pain up front is to get the better outcome. And I think in society these days, people want a lot of short-term success without any pain, and it's probably not the best way of doing it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. People are driving down the wrong road and it's chock full of nails and getting a flat tire, and their first response is, well, let's fix a flat tire. And then next time they drive down the same road, they get another flat tire and they fix the flat tire. But it's short-term patchwork solutions. You got to get off the road, take a different route, And so, you're right.
Yeah, spot on. Now, look, as I said before, you've written 13 best-selling books, and now you're working with Kevin Harrington on helping other people get great authority through books. Just tell us a little bit about what you're doing in that area at the moment.
Okay. And in addition, I've written 2 other books since the COVID lockdown.
So we'll put 15.
I finished number 15 now. It's in layout now. It'll be out soon. But the one I have with Kevin Harrington, from the TV show Shark Tank, and Kevin and I have been friends for a while. And, what we have here, we want to help entrepreneurs, coaches, speakers, trainers, business owners, people. What they need today is PR, marketing, branding, and a way to generate leads coming back to them. And the branding is a key thing. It's like Kevin says, he's devoting his life to, number one, helping entrepreneurs avoid 2 things. Number one, avoid the mistakes that we made when we first started. I made them, he made them. And he said, avoid those mistakes. And number 2 He said, I want to help them become a key person of influence in their field of business. Because if you're perceived as a key person of influence, you almost have to today, because you can get lost in all the noise on the internet and social media, and everybody's competing for space. And if you don't stand out in some way, you'll get lost. It's that simple. So you could have the best program in the world, the best book in the world, the best product in the world, but you get lost if you're not perceived as a key person of influence. So we have a book series. It started out with a book. We published one May of 19. Book 2 was in August of 19. Book 3 was February this year. Book 4 just came out about a month ago. Book 5, we're selecting co-authors for that. It'll be out right around January 1st. And we have 20 co-authors in each book. And we co-brand. We use the cover of the book as a part of a co-branding tool for our co-authors, where we do a different front cover for each one of them. So it's got a picture of Kevin Harrington with his notoriety of Shark Tank, and a picture of me as a top 20 success coach, top 50 speaker. Tony Robbins endorsed the series, so Tony's picture's on there with his endorsement. And then right in the center of the cover is a picture of the co-author. So they're branded on the cover with 3 top coaches and speakers. So that helps to elevate their brand and be perceived as that key person of influence. So, and not only that, they have a book to sell, but we do a lot of PR as well. The last press release we sent out got picked up by over 11,000 TV stations worldwide. And then we ran our Amazon campaign for book 1 through 4, and we ended up hitting #1 international bestseller in all 4 of them. And we hit it in multiple countries and multiple categories. I think it's like 6 countries and 5 or 6 different categories in each country. So, so now our co-authors can advertise that they are a #1 international best-selling author. And then we have a whole lead generation system that we put together as a free membership site that generates leads for our co-authors. So we feel like we've got something pretty special, and we've got some really talented people within the book series. I mean, the Entrepreneur of the Year, the guy that heads up the digital marketing for Amazon, woman with one of the top-rated syndicated radio shows in the world, a Harlem Globetrotter, great guy. Just all kinds of people that with great talent, and some that are up and coming. Some are I wouldn't say getting started, but need a boost. That have some great things to share. So we're pretty excited about it. The title of the book is Cracking the Rich Code. So just like the program I have, Cracking the Rich Code. So that's my brand. So anyway, that's what we're doing. We're always looking for new talented co-authors. We have coaches, speakers, entrepreneurs, anybody looking for greater exposure and some good PR, marketing, and branding.
Right. Well, look, there's plenty of people listening now that would be nodding to that again. 20 authors in a book. So I know a lot of people, when I wrote my book, I think it's about 45,000 words, but it was a labor of love. I actually wrote it on dialysis machine, which probably didn't make it easy for me. But, how many words roughly does someone have to come up with to be a co-author?
Well, it's, if you write your own book, if you have a 300-page book, you're writing about 75,000 words, I think. But our co-authors write a 3,000-word chapter. So they get their picture, their bio on one page, and then they get a 3,000-word chapter, which is about 11 or 12 pages in the book once it's laid out. And then they get their contact info at the end of their chapter. And we don't tell them what to write about. They can write about anything they want as long as it has value for our readers. And our readers are people who are aspiring to have a better life, basically, personally and financially, which is almost everybody. So got a good broad readership.
Yeah, brilliant. Excellent. Well, look, and how can people find out more about that particular?
Well, you can go to jimbritt.com. You can message me from there. You can also go to crackingtherichcode.com. That's the program I put together. But you can email me at support at jimbritt.com directly if you'd like to have more information about the book series.
Great. And we'll have that in the show notes, and we'll also mention at the end as well. So before we go into the live section, I'd like to talk about our quiz, which is to help you work out if you're running a profit machine or a sweat box. You can go to paulhigginsmentoring.com/quiz and answer the questions in less than 5 minutes. You'll be placed in one of 4 percentage ranges with custom actions, including a free 45-minute strategy call to walk through a clear plan based on your results, and also a chance to be like Jim and be on this successful podcast. Just go to paulhigginsmentoring.com/quiz today. So the next section's the live part, Jim, and I think you've got more wisdom here than a lot of us, if that's fair. So, what are some of the daily habits that you've kept that help you be really successful?
Well, I don't get down. I've learned to really let go and live more focused in the moment. My philosophy is wherever you are, be there. But I get up early in the morning. My routine is I get up about 5 in the morning. If I sleep in, it's 5:30. Summertime, I'm always up really early, like 4:30 because of daylight.
Yes.
But I get up and I write and do some editing and kind of do that type of thing from about 5 to about 7:15. And then usually my wife gets up about that time. And then I go to my gym, which is in my home, and work out for about 45 minutes to an hour. And then maybe take a steam or something. And then I come back and have breakfast with my wife. And usually around 9:30, 10 o'clock, I'll walk into my office and spend maybe 6 hours in there total. And maybe we'll probably take a break and have lunch and maybe go somewhere for lunch. Not too many right now, but have been in the past. But that's typically, when I leave my office, I leave my cell phone laying on the desk. So when I walk back over to my house, and so I'm not bothered at night, and because you can spend your life looking at the phone, and I just don't choose to do that. So that's kind of my lifestyle. On a daily basis, and of course I travel or have traveled a lot, and we enjoy eating out, movies, and we're getting ready to buy a pontoon boat and do a little lake stuff around where we live near a lot of beautiful lakes here. So we're going to do that coming up next spring. So that's kind of what we do. We love to travel as well, and go to nice places and hang out.
Yeah, brilliant. And you mentioned Joanna, and she's listening right now, because I'll send her a note to listen, even if you don't, because I know a lot of our guests don't. But what would you like to say to Joanna now for the support she's given you through your journey?
Well, without her, the support that I get from her is pretty tremendous, really. I'm probably not easy to be with me, but in another way it is. But I think the support she's given me, she's never complained about my traveling or what I do or the hours I put in or any of that. So I think that's what makes a relationship work, and what our relationship has worked for 37 years and still working. We both love each other deeply, and we're spending the rest of our lives together. And I think, if I let her be her and she lets me be me, then both of us together will be happy. And relationships are hard enough. You've got to be you, and your significant others got to be themselves. But then you've got the third part of it, which is the two of you together. So she's a great catalyst, and has been a great mom for our 4 sons. I have 2 more sons, but our 4 sons, and they're great kids as well. And she's done a great job of raising them and homeschooling them all the way through. So. Very proud of her, actually.
Excellent.
She's helping a lot of people right now too. She does a lot. She does a lot with her working with seniors, doing stretch classes, Zumba. she's certified in a whole bunch of different stuff that she does, and so now she's doing it online. So it's pretty cool. She had 2 classes today, I think.
Yeah. Look, that's one of the positives out of COVID is we've all learnt to help our clients in different ways. So that's excellent. And the last question, or the last section, I suppose, is the give section. So what's a charity or community that you're passionate about, and why?
Well, what I'm passionate about really is my wife founded a nonprofit years back called Good Women International, and it was helping to avoid or prevent child trafficking, and which is a huge thing now. No longer, she turned that over to somebody else, but she's no longer doing that. But that's one cause that I really feel that needs to be taken care of. And it's a crazy thing when you realize how many children are kidnapped and taken away for sex trafficking and slave trafficking, and all of that stuff is just terrible. So anyway, that's a passion to help stop that. And they helped her organization and another organization helped to create a curriculum that went into high schools that educated the children, I think in ninth or 10th grade, on how to avoid being a victim. She also did a big art project where she brought in like 100 artists, and they created posters. And there's a law in California now that you have to, certain types of businesses have to have these posters in plain sight with a hotline on it for trafficking. And so she helped to put that together and put it into several counties up here where we live. So yeah, very proud of the things that she's done.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And I can't remember the exact stats, but I did have someone on a guest, well, it was nearly 3 years ago now, and that was when I sort of had my kidney fog, so I can't remember it exactly, but it was something like a $400 billion amount of children trafficked each year. Is just obscene.
Well, there's over 300,000 that's trafficked in just in the United States every year. And that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's almost 1,000 a day that's being kidnapped and taken away.
Yeah, no, it's just terrific. So anyone doing help with that. So Joanne, really appreciate that. And look, I give all my book proceeds and a portion of my revenue to a foundation I support, which is the Purple House. So you can go to purplehouse.org.au to find out more. So the last section is the action section. I'll ask you some questions and get some rapid fire responses. So the first one is, what are your top 3 personal effectiveness tips?
Top 3, what was that?
Top 3 personal effectiveness tips.
The top 3, repeat that again. I didn't get the last part.
Yeah, effectiveness. It's my Australian drawl.
Oh.
Jim, sorry.
The top 3 effectiveness?
Yeah, effectiveness tips.
Well, one of the most effective things that you can do, it's a success principle that you can live by, and it's the simplest thing ever if you want to be successful at anything. And that is, once you've decided what it is you want to accomplish in your life in whatever area it is, then realize that every action you take toward that is going to move you toward that or away from it. We live in a black and white world, not a gray world. So, every action is going to take you one way or the other. So you've got to be, probably the second most effective thing too, is to become self-observant of your actions and of your thoughts, of your feelings, your emotions, and continually ask yourself, is this taking me in the direction I want to go? Is it supporting my life? And, we all have beliefs. We all have limiting beliefs. Otherwise, we'd all be cruising on our 200-foot yacht in the Caribbean someplace, with $1 billion in the bank. But we all have limited beliefs. And to change a belief, it's not that difficult. We do it all the time. We just don't realize we're doing it. And you have to challenge a belief. If you find yourself believing something, but it's not working for you, then you got to challenge it. You got to look at it and say, how did I come to believe this? Who taught me? What if they didn't know? What if it's not true? Who would I be without this belief? You could have a belief that money's hard to earn. Well, if that's your belief, that's going to be your experience, because there's a law in effect all the time. It's called the law of cause and effect. And we're causing the effect that we have in our lives. So I would really encourage you to look at what you believe, because all beliefs are false until you decide they're true, and then they're only true for you. Think about that one. They're all false until you decide they're true, but only true for you. So if something's not working, look at what you believe about that and start to challenge it and change it.
Brilliant. And what's an essential piece of technology that helps you run your business?
Well, my computer, LinkedIn. I do a lot of business off of LinkedIn.
Yes.
I'm not much of a technology person. My phone, I can text and make phone calls. I don't do Facebook on my phone or any kind of social media on there. I just try to keep things simple. So I don't think I could live without my computer. And of course, 20 years ago, I didn't think I could even use a computer. So I
yes.
type, and I still type with two fingers. And I've written 15 books with two fingers. So I'm pretty quick with those two fingers.
Yeah, definitely. And, what's the best source of new ideas for you?
Quiet time. I don't, I don't read anymore. I mean, rarely do I read. I'll read chapters that people submit for our book series. I read those. And sometimes I more scan them, but I do read them. But I was a speed reader at one point. I went through over 4,000 books, and I was comprehending. They tested me at like 97% comprehension, and I could read a book, and I read it 28,000 words a minute. Wow. So I could read a 200-page book in a few minutes, and comprehend it all. So I've read so many books that one day I just quit reading. In fact, I was having lunch with somebody, and I told him how many books I'd read, and he said, "You should stop reading." And I couldn't get that out of my mind. And finally, I just said, one day I'm going, okay, I quit. I don't read anymore. So my source of inspiration is, I think I have some answers to living a more fulfilling life, and I don't really look for stimulation to keep me up or anything, or motivated. I'm self-motivated. And so I think I just look for quiet time, and new inspiration comes to me.
Brilliant. And I know where you are on those 10 acres. I'm sure you get plenty of that. And the last question is the big one. I'll leave it to the end for that reason. But what impact do you want to leave on the world?
Well, I know that what we do has a ripple effect. And of course, I want to have a big impact on the world, and you never know what kind of impact you're having. I get emails all the time, and from people I didn't even know that certain things had happened. From somebody that was one person was committing suicide, and they had one of my CDs laying in the seat in their car that they hadn't listened to, and on their way to kill themselves, they plugged that in, and it stopped them. So what kind of ripple of effect did that have on the girl's mother, on her grandmother, on the kids? So I just want to be able to affect as many people as possible. Every time I write a book, I want to make sure there's value on every page, because I know that little things can make a huge difference. But if you change one person, you've changed the people around that person. and the people around that person have changed to one degree or another because of that. So that's what I always have in mind when I'm presenting or doing a seminar or a virtual one or writing a book or whatever it might be. I'm always visualizing that this is having a ripple effect, and somebody's going to have value, get value from it, and pass it on to others. So,
excellent. Well, look, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, Jim. I was really looking forward to this, and you certainly have not let me or everybody listening now down. I'm going to mark this certain amount of my podcasts. I mark them to listen to every year. It's like reading the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And this podcast is going to go into that very small group. But people listening right now, you can go and find out more about Jim. As he said, Jim Britt, BRITT.com. It'll all be in the show notes as well. And if you want to find more about that fantastic opportunity to be in the series of the book, you can just go to support@jimbritt.com. And also you can go to crackingtherichcode.com as well. And there's a fantastic video there by Jim. And, you get all the resources to, go and create that ripple effect for others, just like Jim has for so many years for people in the world. So, Jim, absolute pleasure. Thanks for being on.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Paul.
Cheers. Bye. That was an amazing episode with Jim. I said on it that I would listen to this time and time again. And yes, the show notes will do it justice, but, just listen to this more than once, because he's got so much gold in here. And, he's just been, so instrumental to so many people, and has also, his peer group, what he's learnt from them and shared with them as well. And I know it was a bit longer than normal, but I thought it was just too good to stop Jim and all of his wisdom. You can get the fully transcribed show notes at Paul Higgins Mentoring /podcast. I'd love to know, what is your biggest takeaway from Jim? Please share on your socials mentioning Jim, and take a screenshot of the podcast cover as well. To find out more about Jim, just go to his website at jimbritt.com, and you can also go to crackingtherichcode.com. All of this will be in the show notes. If you believe someone you know would benefit from the show, please share. They will love you for it. You can find out if you're running a profit machine or a sweatbox in our quiz, and you can go to paulhigginsmentoring.com /quiz. Please take action to build a profitable and sustainable business and stay well.
Thanks for listening to the Build, Live, Give podcast. If you like what you heard, please share it and leave us a review. It would mean the world to us.